Matchmaker.fm connects podcasters and guests. Welcome to Matched, the show where we talk to some of the most incredible guests available for an interview right now. I'm your host, James Mulvany, founder of Matchmaker.fm, and this is Matched. Hey, welcome to Matched. Today I'm joined by Nat Rich. How's it going, Nat?
Very good, thank you. How are you?
I'm great. Thanks for joining us today.
Good. I'm very excited to get this done. I think you're doing a great thing, so why not?
Yeah, let's start off with a couple of icebreakers. My first icebreaker for you is, would you rather live in the ocean or on the moon?
Oh, definitely on the moon. I want to know if it's as bleak as they say it is. It looks like it's got stuff on it. I'm into aliens, so I'm definitely going for the moon.
Really? It's interesting because I was trying to guess which one you'd go for before we started. I thought you were going to say the ocean.
No, I'm definitely down for a trip to the moon.
I guess you
as long as there's a return.
Yeah, you get to look down on the Earth as well and see what everyone's up to. Be quite interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, Next up, if you had to pick a fight, not that I'm condoning violence, with one horse-sized duck or 10 duck-sized horses, which would you choose?
I'd love to see 10 duck-sized horses, no? Wouldn't that be the best?
Yeah, or just a giant duck.
Yeah, no, the giant duck, I saw one floating through. They had a big plastic duck. Can you remember when it floated through London? I don't know if you saw that. It floated on the Thames.
Vaguely.
But there was little mini horses like My Little Ponies. I'm down for the little, duck-sized horses.
Okay, great. There we go. We know something about you then. Nat, please just start off by telling us about yourself and introduce yourself. Tell us what you do.
Yeah, I am a personal responsibility coach. So it's not a life coach. It's somebody that helps you take personal responsibility for all the things that you're not doing in your life. Sounds a little bit life coachy, but it's slightly different. I'm doing that at the moment. And I'm also the founder of I Am Sound Radio, which is a unique wellness and dance music radio station. So I'm bringing in all of my history of radio production and doing radio for years. And I built myself a station.
How's it going?
And here I am. I'm loving it at the moment. It's so good. It's really, for me, it's bringing in everything I love about dance music and when I used to live in Ibiza, and bringing in all of that side of life and the DJing into the wellness and the self-improvement and the spirituality, and blending them together with the understanding of sound and vibration and energy, and really just mixing those up.
I'm a big believer that music is like a huge catalyst to change your mood. Like personally, I'm a big fan of house, as I'm sure you are as well. And like, I just think, sometimes you get a song and you can be having a miserable day and you listen to a great track and it just totally lifts your mood. It can be a massive healing tool.
It is, and there's so much about music that even I'm learning now. I'm going on this sound journey, and even though I've called the business I Am Sound, there's so much more to learn about sound every day. You never stop learning. And when you really understand like energy and vibration, you truly get to see that, we are made of sound. So, when we play music, it does definitely have a response we have a response to it, and it can change your mood instantly. But it can also, one thing I actually noticed is I actually had to go through a period of silence, because I used to use sound and music to get out of the way I was feeling. And I used to think that was good, but I would also be avoiding feelings. So I started to use music as a bit of an addictive tool when I was DJing. And that was really not healthy. So I decided to have a period of silence. And the silence is just as great as the music.
Yeah. And also listening to birdsong, I've heard, is really good for you as well.
Yes. And sound of the waves.
So I'm curious to know, obviously, this kind of ties in nicely to sort of my next question, which is, what is it about podcasting that you like? And why is it, do you think, a medium that's powerful for kind of getting your message out there?
So for me, I think this, I don't have any social media. I don't have any social media for any of the businesses that I have. I don't fundamentally believe in a lot of the things that happen with social media. But I still have this need to connect with people, and I love stories, and I love networking as a one-on-one as well. And I think that if you can have a space where you offer someone the opportunity to tell and share their story, you get to know them better. So for me, podcasting is a really good way to be able to express myself, but also to be able to hear the expression of others and to connect and still provide content, even though it's not going to be going out on my Twitter or my Instagram or a Facebook. I've actually got two podcasts, of my personal podcasts, one called The Wonder of Life and one called Daily Miracles, and I've put those out, and I still get listens to them all around the world. I've just actually moved them over to you guys at Podcast. Okay, plug there for you from Buzzsprout. But I've just moved them over, but I'm still getting listens from all around the world of people I've never met that are still hearing the message that I've put out, and they're still reaching out to me, and I get clients from that, just from podcasting, without any social media. But for me, that's I feel it's a more personal way of doing things.
So you've actually found it a great tool for business development then as well?
Definitely. I mean, I got booked randomly. I was in Ibiza last week on holiday, and I just got a phone call when I was at the beach saying, "Hi Nat, we just listened to your podcast. We'd love to book you for a motivational talk and and I would love you to do some meditations for us because I do voiceovers as well." And they said, "Oh, we'd love you to do some meditation content for our new platform." And I was like, "Oh, great! But can I just ask how you heard of me?" And they said, "Oh yeah, we were on Spotify and your podcast played about I think it was the one on fear, and we just loved the way that you talked about it." And I was like, "Okay." And I'm doing nothing on the beach but sunbathing, and I get a call to book me just because they've heard a podcast that I did 2 years ago.
That's great. So I think an interesting sort of learning point there is for people who are maybe just getting started, think about the content as evergreen, think about the longevity of it, because something you're recording now might then end up influencing or bringing in a customer 2 years down the line, which is great.
Yeah, and that podcast, just to make note, is only, I think it's 14 minutes long. I made all of my podcasts for The Wonder of Life like under 15 minutes, and it's super short. But because I'm sharing about my own vulnerabilities about fear, everybody feels fear, and I think everyone can connect with it when they listen to it, and you can't escape that feeling. So they obviously liked that, and then I'd left my details underneath the podcast at the very bottom, obviously just my website, so people can reach out in the description, which I didn't do in the first few times of the podcast. Nobody could get in touch with me, but then you have to actually leave your details because that helps, or you can say it on your podcast, and that people can reach out to you, because it's a missed opportunity otherwise.
And how about being a guest on other people's podcasts? I'm curious to sort of know what led you to sign up to Matchmaker and hear about some of your experiences with the platform.
Well, I think the reason I signed up, I thought it was a very clever idea. As you know, I've already got a radio station with you guys on radio.co. I'd seen the podcast.co thing, and then I saw the Matchmaker, and I was like, you guys have got it all in one. It's really useful. So I thought, why not just give it a try? Because I don't spend time scrolling on social media. I don't have any of that time to reach out. The only thing I do have, which I occasionally use, is LinkedIn, but it's pretty much like a CV/phone book. But other than that, I don't really have a place to do that. So it really made sense for me to have Matchmaker. When I went and looked on there, I found some really cool people, and I have a very unique story from a number of different angles, from entrepreneurial side, from no social media, and then giving up all of my addictions. So I'm quite a chatty person, and people like to interview me, and it's fun.
Great. Okay. And tell us about some of your best interviews so far then.
I had an amazing interview with Patrick Cook. And Patrick Cook is on your platform, and he basically I don't know if you know this, but his podcast has been ranked by Business Insider as one of the top 20 podcasts in the world, and my podcast with him is his top performing podcast, and he's he's next to like Tim Ferriss and all the other guys as well on this Business Insider list, which is incredible. And I when he told me that the other day, I was like, what? I was so shocked. But then there's another guy that I actually interviewed, another guy called Bill Ranshaw, and we had an incredible podcast. And I've got something called the Talkwards, which are awkward talks about things that matter. And he is a porn addiction specialist, and that was one of the things I actually gave up because I got addicted to it, because I gave up sex for a long period of time. And I was thinking, I really want to interview this guy because this is a really raw subject. A lot of people have this problem. Let's have a chat. But I'm thinking, please be funny. But actually, he's an incredibly funny guy. And now we've done several shows, and he's going to be doing way more with us as well. So he's a really cool guy that I've interviewed. I think that was my funniest, because he's really raw and just says everything, and everything's out. So it just really it helps to have that banter.
That's
as well.
Such a niche topic as well. Like, I think...
I know.
It's what's interesting is, like, if you're building a podcast, you want to create, you want to tell a certain story each episode. And also you don't want it to become too repetitive. So it's about trying to diversify, who you're speaking to and the topics they're talking about. And I just think it goes to show that, you can really find an expert. There's an expert for anyone on any topic that you can possibly imagine.
Totally. I mean, I was sat there because I've got a whole host of content that's generally geared towards men and their mental health, because I've been trying to support that this year with the station. And, one of the biggest things out there is the porn addiction. So when I saw this profile, I'm like, it was just came, and I'm thinking, no way. And he reached out to me, and I was like, please be funny, because you're so unique. And you could do so well. And that's when you've got something magical, is when you've got somebody that's vulnerable and open enough to share everything. If you can share all of yourself on a podcast, and you can do it with fun, and you're not taking it too seriously, you've already got the magic. Then you just combine that with a really cool subject and some great questions, and you've got an incredible podcast. And when we put that on YouTube, we actually, because you have to go through and title it in different ways, it was I've not got loads of followers on YouTube yet because I've only just very recently started, because I don't have anything else to social media. So I was learning. But one of the things that you have to do is call it something. And we put, am I addicted to porn? And that was actually the top search for porn on YouTube. And it had been recommended. So we had like a retention rate on that podcast it's a podcast that's an hour and 10 minutes. And the retention rate was 53 minutes. So somebody had listened, so people were listening to it pretty much all the way through because it was a unique topic.
Interesting. And actually on YouTube, that's a long time for someone to engage with.
None of my other videos have had that, but obviously everyone's addicted to porn.
Yeah. How do you source topics? Like when you're coming up with a concept for say this particular podcast, what advice would you give to someone who's, wanting to, because obviously that's something that people are searching for. And I think there's a great strategy there. If you can discuss topics that perhaps there's not so many people talking about, but that they are getting search traffic. What's your strategy there? How do you kind of come up with these ideas?
Well, the essential kind of middle point that I go to is what makes me feel uncomfortable, what has made me feel uncomfortable. Because if I've got an uncomfortable feeling about it, someone else has, and they're going to want to help, find a way out of that uncomfortable feeling. So that's why I came up with the Talkwards with an old friend of mine. We were essentially having a bit of an awkward conversation, and he said, "Oh, this is a bit of a Talkward, isn't it?" And I said, "Yeah." And it was just so well named, and I was like, "Do you know what? Let's use that for the business." And unfortunately, he's no longer with us because it was a bit too awkward. But it basically ended up being a really great word, and it covers everything. And there is so many things that people get uncomfortable about, and if you can help someone feel comfortable to share their true feelings, or you can share yours, it gives them permission to share theirs. Because everyone's heard conversations about business, everyone's heard conversations about, motivational stories are never going to die young, really, because they're all different. But if you can really tap into your most incredibly awkward, embarrassing and shameful points in life, you are literally giving yourself and someone else permission to open up and be real. And there's nothing quite like that, especially when you're listening and someone's got their headphones on and they're maybe driving. It's really intimate and personal content, which they wouldn't maybe share with someone else. So that really, for me, I think is, if you're willing to and you're prepared to share all, then go for those parts first, those bits that make you go, "Oh, this is really uncomfortable."
Yeah,
they're the best.
It's kind of like when you just get really engrossed in a conversation with someone, and I think that's it, isn't it? You're dead right there in terms of, it's that thing. You've got someone literally in your ear or on your headphones, or when you're driving or whatever it might be. And if it's just you sat there, it's almost like you're sat there listening in on the conversation. I think that's kind of like one of the main things why podcasting has become so successful over the last couple of years, because of that. It's that intimacy that you kind of don't get. I think a lot of the YouTube videos and things are very kind of cold. The way they're structured, it's just very sort of showy offy, or like incredibly formatted. So you don't get that same connection, I don't think.
I think one of the other things that really resonated with me is I'm part of a network called Dent Global, and I've been to quite a few of their events. And I did a podcasting, because I used to train in podcasting as well, because obviously having the radio station and so on. But I went to a podcasting day, and I was surprised at the stats that they generated. And basically, I think it was something like 73% of advertising that goes within a podcast. People purchase stuff, basically, something like that. Something like, it's a high rate of people actually purchasing from advertisers in podcasts, because it's delivered to a targeted audience, and it's delivered in such a way that people believe and buy into it, because you're dealing with one person, you're not dealing with a huge advert, you're dealing with the authenticity. So if it works like that for buying and purchasing, you'll get more plays, you'll get more hits, you'll get more shares, you'll get more likes. So you just use the logic that people are there listening and they're ready and waiting. So if you can drop your really cool content in at the side of a really cool advert, you've got someone, and that's a likable platform for somebody to be
cool on. What's next, and who would your ideal guests be for your podcast? What other podcasts would you like to appear on? Where do you want to go next with this?
Do you know what? I would love to interview and be interviewed. Actually, I'd love to be on Fern Cotton's stuff that she's got, her podcast, just because I'm also radio, and she's very much into the spirituality scene now, which I've been in for about 12 years. So it'd be really cool. I think the flow would go great, very well there, and I believe in what she's doing. I think she's fantastic. And also I would love to have Russell Brand, because he's one of the most awkward people out there, and I just think I could talk to him about so many different subjects, and really get into it. And I also feel like I would I'd be able to kind of slow him down a little bit because I love his content, but so many people, I just think it would be really cool to get him right in onto certain subjects where I'm interviewing him and he's answering, but in the sense of in a slower format, because he's got some amazing things to say, but some people just miss it because he's so quick. So I'd love to just a little bit slower and then get it on that. I'd love that.
Great. I think they're be really two really interesting people to speak to. What advice would you give to someone who's looking to start podcasting?
Don't wait. There's literally don't wait. If you've got too many ideas, the whole procrastinating thing is a killer. If you can just put something out, even if you only send it to 10 friends, you've done a podcast. You don't have to send it everywhere. You don't have to tell everyone about it, but just getting used to your own voice and becoming comfortable with that is really important. I remember when I first heard myself on the microphone, I was like, I can't sound like that. And now my voice has improved over time because of confidence, because of my meditations that I do. And I've grown as a person. But the sooner you start, the better. And don't get put off by how you sound, because no one's ever going to judge you as much as you judge yourself. So if you get over that bit first, the rest is fine. And then also really get a good branding design. Don't just make something and whack it up. Get a really good cover for your podcast that looks like it's engaging, because that's what people will want.
I think it kind of sometimes, people do judge a book by its cover, unfortunately.
Totally.
So I agree. I think branding's good. And also just starting, you're dead right. Too many people procrastinate. They think about things or they overthink it, and then it ends up sort of spoiling it almost, because, it becomes too kind of, I think people sometimes overthink things to the point where it just becomes, bland, you know.
Yeah, there's one thing as well, one more thing that my first podcast that I did, The Wonder of Life, which has actually got me an incredible amount of work. There's 11 or 12 episodes, and everyone was saying, why do you not carry on? And I said, well, I don't actually have anything else more to say right now. I could make it up, but I would be making it up. And then what would be the authenticity in that? And I think that was one thing for me is, I can now go back and do a second series in that podcast because I feel like I've got more to talk about and it's more authentic. But I didn't want to align with the peer pressure of just doing it for the sake of doing it. It wasn't a confidence thing where I'm like, I don't have anything more to do. It was actually, I don't have anything more to say. And that's okay. So even if you start and you could just do a series and go for 10, and then you can see how you feel after 10. You might want to change your subject. You might want to change your branding, but don't think you have to be in that for life and then it's always going to be that way, because you're going to grow and change. So stick with 10, start, smash it, see the reviews, see what you did wrong, what you could do differently, and then you can go on to series number 2.
I think that's great. And also, it's better to do 10 really good episodes than doing 20 or 30 kind of episodes where you're almost just creating content for the sake of creating content. Give it your best, give it your all for the first 10 episodes. And I think that will really help people kind of get that momentum going as well.
Yeah, totally.
Nat, thanks very much. If people want to find out more about you, how can they get in touch?
So you can go to where'snatat.com, or you can go to iamsoundacademy.com. That's the radio station, and I am available on there 24/7. I'll respond to anyone who wants to reach out.
Cheers, Nat. Thanks a lot for your time today.
There is an easier way to get booked onto more podcasts as a guest. Join matchmaker.fm for free today and start making connections with podcasters who are looking for guests just like you.